Hi, my name is Rick Lobb. I am the broker of record for Royal LePage Heartland Realty and a realtor in this area for 23 years. And a few months back, we had done a few episodes of what we were going to call Real Talk, which was going to be a real estate related episodic show. And we thought that that format could evolve into maybe a free-form conversation about real estate in this area, and we'll call it Real Talk for the continuity of it all, but have a more casual conversation with my partners Jeff Bauer and Kathy Dawson, who are my partners in our team called the Homefield Group. And we can bring you information about real estate in the Huron County and specific for us, the Goderich area. And then maybe in future episodes, bring in other realtors from our company that deal in the other areas in Huron County and talk about what's going on in those areas. So today, as sort of an introduction to both Jeff and Kathy, I thought that we would start to have a conversation about the Goderich market and what it's done over the last few years. And hopefully you find it informative, and if you have questions, we would like you to get in touch with us and ask those questions so that it gives us fodder for future conversations. But to start, I guess, Jeff, when we're talking about the Goderich market and what it's done over the last few years, why don't you sort of bring everybody up to speed with what you've seen?
Yeah, so right now we are at an all-time low, I think, with how much inventory we have in Goderich specifically. There's a handful of listings, and that's been a product of time since 2017. We've had people moving in from the city that are buying up all the property, and there's nowhere for people that currently live in Goderich to move around like they used to in the before time. So previous to 2017, people would move around. They would move from a bigger house to a smaller house, but now that all the houses are selling so quickly, people are kind of staying put.
Yeah, so with that in mind, you mentioned 2017 was sort of like the year that everything changed. And when we look back on that particular year in all of Huron County, I guess you guys would both agree that there was like this crazy sales spike for listings selling in Huron County. And I remember at the time, you know, in 2016, as late as fall of 2016, feeling like this area was completely insulated from the effects of the Toronto real estate market and the greater provincial economy. And then all of a sudden, in a matter of like the first few months of 2017, everything sort of changed in this area.
Well, Toronto market went crazy.
Yeah.
And then that Toronto market started pushing out into Kitchener-Waterloo region. And so those people in Kitchener-Waterloo were starting to get more and more money and more equity out of their homes. And then those Kitchener-Waterloo people that were familiar with Goderich, because they had vacationed here, had cottages here, had been here over the years to use the beach, started deciding, okay, let's take that equity out of our houses, let's move to Goderich and start our retirement. So those people have been able to come in with cash offers on properties over list price. So that's how we've seen the escalation of the prices. So it's been great for sellers. It's been a great, healthy market for sellers. Buyers have been having a bit harder time because they are in competition sometimes. Competition, of course, meaning more than one person offering on a house at the same time for our viewers. So when you're in competition for an offer, you have to try to make your offer as attractive as possible. So you're going in with a higher price. You're starting to remove conditions, and you're more accommodating to the seller's demands, I suppose.
Right. Yeah.
In addition to people coming in from out of the area, we've also been seeing more youth being retained in the area as well. With the addition of Engage Goderich, I think that has helped too. And youth are in there competing and trying to get into the market, and we're seeing a lot of that as well.
I guess on that note, you know, it's interesting because we always hear that it's retirees coming out of the city that are driving this market and that has really been the cause of the escalation in value. But it's true, there is a buying population that is younger, that is of the younger demographic, that unfortunately are a lot of the times competing against those well-funded retirees coming out of the city. But this area isn't all just about retirees. It does have a population of
Youth.
young buyers. That,
So the one thing that actually a younger buyer, like a first-time buyer, is going to have an advantage over somebody who's moving from the city is that they might not have a house that they have to sell.
Right.
Right. So if you are offering in competition and you're in a price range where people are going to be having a house typically that they're going to be selling in order to move there, sometimes a first-time buyer is going to have the advantage there because they don't have to sell their house before they put an offer on something. So there is sometimes an advantage. Often they don't have as deep of pockets, but
Yeah.
But they're very prepared and well educated on the market as well.
yeah. And you know, when you have somebody who's never been through the process before, it's good to be able to work with somebody who's never done it before because they take your advice when you give it to them.
Yeah.
They don't think they know it all, right? So when you can sit down with a new buyer and say, okay, this is how we approach it, this is how we look at houses, this is how the process works, and you can guide them through the whole thing, it could be a huge advantage than somebody just popping around, looking at open house, going to a listing agent, calling this agent, because you have a succinct plan and strategy in place with your agent that you're able to, okay, this is the house we want, this is what we're going to do, and you know exactly what's going on. So I've had the fortune of working with a number of first-time buyers, and when they listen to you, it's crazy, they're often more successful.
Right.
It's weird how that works.
Yeah. It's almost like you know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then as far as sellers, the selling market is continuing to be strong. And some people wonder about waiting until spring. But we sort of recommend the sooner the better as this selling market continues.
Well, that's the thing with this kind of a market. When you have a supply deficiency like we have, there's no real bad time to list a property. And yeah, right now around the Christmas season, it tends to get slower, and that can actually be a beneficial time to list because your number of competing available houses out there is a lot lower too. So.
Yeah. The market always used to be spring was the busiest,
Yeah.
and then it would slow down through the summer
Yeah.
a little bit, and then it would peak up second highest time in the fall, and then taper down through the winter to the lowest season. So since 2017, it's been level across the board, little dip, like you said, just at the Christmas area of time, and then back up to and that's been for the last 2-3 years, right?
Yeah,
Like
I know, it's
that's-
crazy. Having been in this market for 23 years,
That's a long time.
yeah, and I started when I was very young.
Yeah, you must have been.
Very,
How
very
old are
young.
you? Like, I thought you had to be at least 18 to
I
get
know,
your license.
I
but-
was, they got me in a little early, but
It was in the family, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was grandfathered in. The first 20 years in this market was just this, we saw 20 years of balanced market. And then we had rises and like ebbs and flows, I guess you would say. But man, in the last 3, the market has just completely changed. It's so bizarre.
Yeah. So I've only got to see, because I'm so much younger than you, I've only got to see like the last 7 years of the market. But I've seen a huge difference from when I started to now. Like, for instance, there was probably 60 listings in Goderich when I started,
Yeah.
and today I think there's 6.
Yeah.
So that's insane.
Yeah,
That's
it
an
is.
insane difference. Let's talk about, okay, let's say somebody wants to list their house in the winter, but their house shows like garbage in the winter because it's covered in snow, it's all muddy. What can a seller do to make their house more attractive to a buyer in the winter?
Yeah, well, first impressions are always the most important. And walking right up to the front door, is it nicely shoveled? Is it well looked after? Sometimes people can't touch up if they needed to repaint the front door or paint around edges of the windows, but putting out a nice planter or a nice fresh mat, welcoming at the front door, and then in the house, if you really like color, some people don't, so you kind of want those neutral tones in the house, and then you want people to be able to picture themselves living there and picture their own furnishings in the house. So Sometimes we need to recommend somebody to come in and help people sort through things, like especially in estate sales, when somebody's lived in the house a long time, right? Recently, Judy Lambers was in to help one of our clients just to
Organize.
scale back
yeah.
all of the items in the house so that the rooms look larger.
Yeah, which we'll probably get Judy in on a conversation in the future to talk about what her business is, which is
She's great,
sort of
super helpful.
Organizing.
decluttering, and estate sales.
I should get her to
Yeah.
come to my house.
Yeah.
There's a lot of baby stuff in my house that she could get
Well,
rid of.
hey, she might be able to help you with that. We'll get her in here and ask her.
You know what I like when I'm showing a house in the wintertime is when the heat's on. So I went
Definitely.
into a couple of houses that were vacant recently,
it's brutal.
and it's freezing. Like there was 4 of us in the house, and we were literally, there was one rug, and we were all standing on the rug so that we could talk
Yeah,
about the house
you
because
have
our
to
feet
have
were
the heat
freezing
on.
cold.
Yeah, 100%.
And they even had a Nest thermostat there that they could have, like they knew we were going to be there. They could have programmed it from their phone. I don't care where they were. Like they could have had it. They could have
Yeah.
had a toasty.
And I mean,
Yeah.
They
nothing,
could have had a toasty.
nothing is less saleable than being in an uncomfortably cold space, like trying to
Or-
sell that.
I might argue
The
that
buyer just wants to
stinky.
get out.
Well, smell is the other one. Yeah.
Stinky might be worse than cold, but that's a
Yeah,
close one too.
That's right.
So yeah, don't have a stinky
Yeah.
cold house. It's gonna be hard
Double
to sell.
whammy.
Yeah, it's
Really
hard to sell
important.
stinky
Double
cold
whammy.
ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just the principal rooms of the house are the most important ones to have staged if people can when they
So
sell.
principal rooms, you mean living room,
Kitchen.
dining room, kitchen,
Master bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody's going to sell a house in the winter, how long, like typical closing, people don't like moving in the winter right now, right? So if someone wanted to list their house now, they actually, typical closing, what would you say?
60, 90 days, somewhere
60,
in there,
90?
yeah.
Yeah, so a couple months. So even if you listed your house in the winter, you might not even, the snow might be gone.
Yeah.
Right, it'd be moving in the spring.
But it's tough to, when the snow's out there, it's not that much fun to move.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because, we've done deals where the people they buy a house that's blanketed under snow. They've never seen what the lawn looks like.
Yeah.
They've never seen what the roof looks like
Yeah.
because it's covered in snow. And then when it's time to move in, 2 months later or 3 months later, they
This house
finally
has a
get,
pool.
Hey, great, yeah.
Well, not that extreme. Might be a surprise what's in the garden.
Yeah, it's interesting though. It's true. Winter is a little bit of a obstacle-ridden time to be looking at houses. But again, in this new market that we're in, it doesn't matter the season because ultimately it's the supply or lack thereof that is driving, and the amount of pent-up demand that we have that is driving everything
So let's talk
forward.
about that pent-up demand a little bit. So right now, we already said there's so few houses for sale. But we know that looking to the future, that there's going to be some developments around the Goddard, and Huron County wide, there's things happening.
Yeah.
So we know that there's the big development on the south end of town. So that's very south edge of Goderich.
Yeah, the Fusion Home and the other developer.
The old O'Brien
yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
So that is, that's being greenlit. The mayor said this morning that it should be in the next couple years. We'll see people,
Or a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all
You know,
speculation.
politicians,
2 years.
politicians.
It's all speculation, but what we hear is that it's a year and a half from now
Yeah.
we should see some
Some
development
action.
that's,
Yeah.
that's actually happening.
So that's going to change things.
Yep.
That will change the market a little bit. There's a lot of infill projects happening in Goderich as well. If you drive around town, there's not as many double lots with a vacant lot sitting beside a house anymore. Almost all of those have been cut off and have a house put on them now. And any chunk of green space or brown space in town kind of has a target on it right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Be it from a developer, an individual home, or what have you. But once that development opens up on the south end of town, it's going to give people that want that type of house, a brand new house, no maintenance type of living, it's going to give people a healthy other option than what we have right now. So right now we're seeing a huge seller's market, and I think we're starting to see the pricing plateau.
Yeah, I would agree.
In the area. It's seen a nice, I don't foresee any sort of downturn, but I think it is going to plateau. And the fact that those houses are going to come available, I think that that's going to open it up, and then the market is going to balance. There's going to be more houses come for sale that are staying on the market for a little bit longer. People will have more variety and look at a number of different homes before they have to pull the trigger and do something right away.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because then when that development on the south side of town opens up, location will become a lot more, location in Goderich already is a huge deal, but I think it'll become even more important because that development to the south, the benefits will be, obviously it's a lakeside development and it'll all be new and super clean and crisp. It'll be a construction zone, I would imagine, for a few years, but there will be all new homes in there. But it's that much further away from the square, that much further away from the amenities.
It's a driving suburb.
Yeah, so, how much impact is that going to have on the value of the stuff that's close to downtown? Yeah.
So my house is close to downtown, and I know that I have a number of neighbors that would be in that phase of life where they would want to downsize, would want something newer without the maintenance. But right now, there's just nothing for them, right?
Yeah.
So I would foresee once those new houses come available, a lot of those people who's, they're retired, their kids have moved out, their family visits a couple times a year. They've got this big lot with this big old 2-story red brick house. People are going to want to move out of those, but just as fast, people are going to want to buy them because the people will want to be close to the square and close to the beach and be in that sort of walking. But a lot of these people that are in these houses don't get out and walk and do those things to the market and things like that anymore, right? It's not in their lifestyle anymore. So
yeah. The other thing that I wanted to touch on as far as new developments that have been happening, the one on Hamilton Street right across from our office. There's been, like Hamilton Street, just off the square, has seen some stuff happening on it in the last few years. The first being that Red Door family store coming down there and actually, creating a destination for people who are looking for retail, and now to see that the building going up on Hamilton Street, which I guess is the insurance, West Wawanosh Insurance.
Wawanosh Mutual Insurance,
yeah.
their head office.
And that's going to be how many square feet?
I'm not
Is it
sure on the square footage of it.
8,000
Big
square feet?
amount.
Yeah, it's going to be a big, beautiful office building.
It'll probably be 4,000 on the main floor. And
I think it was 8,000 square feet in total. And
that
that'll
lot-
change the look of Hamilton
That
Street.
lot has been sitting there empty for a very, very long time. And when you would drive off the square down Hamilton Street, it was just kind of, it was. But now you're going to go down there, you're going to see this beautiful triangular building, and then you're going to see, like, brand new, and then you're going to see the Bradley Corner building.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite buildings in town.
Yeah.
Because it's just so cool architecturally. So you're going to see this 150-year-old building,
Right
and then you're going to
across.
see the brand new one.
Yeah.
It's going to look really cool.
Yeah,
it's gonna
for
be
sure.
nice. So definitely things changing on Hamilton Street. The fence is up next door to our office.
Yeah, and we don't know exactly what's happening there yet, but
we don't have
there'll
parking
be
spots.
some. Yeah, it's true. But there should be whatever's coming there. Obviously, will be a new and cool looking.
And it's got to be
situation.
merely speculating, but there's got to be some. There's got to be some residential in there. It's too big of an area for it not to be a high number of residential units. How they're split up or how it's how they're being occupied, time will have to tell on that. But it'll be great for the downtown core. And ideally, there would be options for people to get into an ownership type scenario, like at a lower price range. Like imagine if we had $150,000 condos.
Oh, it'd be incredible.
Like, wouldn't that be amazing for a first-time buyer?
Would change
Or a retiree
and
or
change the
whoever, right?
demographic of our downtown.
It
If you could have that kind of attainable housing in the square vicinity like that,
how much more viable is a pub, and
That's right.
how much more
Then you
viable
can-
is something else up there, where
Then you
know
can
there's
have these spin-off businesses
there's 100
that
more
will be
people
supported
that are
by
living
those.
right there,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
Yeah. Even still, that insurance building, which will have, I think, over 100 employees.
oh yeah.
I mean, that's going to bring 100 employees down to downtown
You know what
Goderich.
it will cause a problem though is for the lineups at Kate's Cafe.
That will be a serious
That will-
problem.
That will be annoying.
That's right.
Let's start calling in our coffee order.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And then we have the Comfort Inn is
Yeah,
complete
yeah.
now, and then
Yeah.
behind that, the affordable housing as well, which is highly needed in the area.
Yeah.
That building's going up as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another big building.
It's
have
funny
have
to
you
see.
driven down Strand Court and looked at?
No.
So Strand Court cul-de-sac street.
Yep.
They kind of extended the cul-de-sac and made it bigger, and then the apartments are at the end, and you should drive down there because once you get back there, you see it's actually a very significant sized building. From the highway, when you look through
Yeah,
the Comfort Inn,
which
you
I
only
have
see
seen.
like a third of it.
Oh, really?
It's big. Yeah. It's a big building.
Wow.
So lots happening.
Yeah.
There is. There is.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about?
I don't know. I think that's probably, that
probably
feels
fine.
good. Feels good. That's a good amount of time.
Cool.
Nick?
Nick
Yeah.
thinks so. Emma?
Emma says yes.
Yeah. Emma's asleep.
Yeah, that's right. She's asleep again. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed the episode, I guess the inaugural Real Talk video podcast episode that will hopefully carry on into future episodes. If you're curious about any of the information that we talked about today, feel free to get a hold of us, and there'll be links to get a hold of us where this video is posted. You can find us at homefieldgroup.ca. You can find us at rlpheartland.ca, and all our contact information is there. Thanks for watching, if you actually stuck around and watched the whole thing, and hopefully we'll see you again.